Welcome to the Creative Chats Podcast with Mike Brennan. Welcome, friends, to another episode of Creative Chats. It's the podcast for artists, makers, and content creators where we talk about creativity, the creative process, and story. I'm your host, Mike Brennan. You can connect with me on my website, which is mikebrennan.me. And while you're over there, poke around. I have created resources with you in mind as a fellow creative person under Daily Creative Habit. I have many books that I have self-published myself, actually 8 in all, and I have my own artwork that you can check out. And so if you'd like to work with me by hiring me for some design or illustration or creative coaching, speaking at your organization or for your team, I would love to connect with you over there. Now, today's going to be a short episode. There were some tech mishaps, and basically it just means that the usual workflow was interrupted. But today I wanted to share something about an experience I had recently. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you get the benefit of being able to see something. I was finally able to do Kintsugi. And Kintsugi is the Japanese art of repairing pottery with gold. Now, this isn't real gold. This is gold paint and gold powder in some instances. But I had always wanted to try this because the meaning behind it, this idea of taking something that's broken and redeeming it and having something beautiful with the cracks still showing become part of what is new. The symbolism and the heart behind that has really resonated with me from the first time I heard about this art form. And for whatever reason, over the years, it has just eluded me. I found out about some workshops after the fact and just couldn't find places that were local to where I was at any given point, or things weren't being offered, or classes were canceled, or all sorts of things that have happened. And yet I even trust the process that when the time is right, things appear. And so this past weekend, I was able to go to an arts center that's not too far from where I live here in Nashville and partake in this workshop. Now, a little shout out to somebody who's a listener here also who led the class, who I actually got to meet in person for the first time. It's always fun to take those kind of online relationships and make the real life connections with them. And Cara Williams, if you're listening today, thank you so much for just leading the class and teaching this to us. It was a great joy to learn this experience and also to get to meet you. And in this class, we learned this art. And one of the things that she told us right away was, you need patience. And no one ever wants to hear that, right? That's something that is always like, okay, yes, I get it. I need patience, right? It's also like when somebody says, don't pray for patience because you'll have all sorts of experiences and opportunities to exercise that will most likely be frustrating because it's teaching you. Now, I didn't show up with a broken dish or mug like I showed you, but instead they had some materials there on hand. And so for me, I actually had to go and break this first. And then we were taught this art of, okay, here's how you put this together. You reassemble it with this gold, and it's epoxy and it was gold acrylic, or like I said, gold kind of powder in the second one. Now I did 3 different tries at this. If you're watching on YouTube, again, this was the last try. There's actually a crack in here that was so big because I couldn't reassemble this little piece where basically it looks like a little window in the mug that I'm holding. And that's part of the charm. It's part of the story of what happened here. Now, again, in real life, if you had some things that broke and it was unintentional, and then you're taking that and you're repairing that, you're redeeming it, and you're using gold because you want to show that there's value in this still, that all is not lost. And so when we take that experience of Kintsugi and actually apply it to our own lives, it's those places where we have failed. Maybe we've been broken. where life has happened. I mean, I've shared time and again about my depression, and some people shy away from that. I understand it. It's personal for everybody. And I certainly don't advocate bleeding on anybody in public, right? Don't share unprocessed pain. But my personal view is if I'm going to go through something that's difficult, that's painful, I want to see this redeemed, not only for me, but then also that it can be a help to somebody else. And so by talking about some of these more difficult and dark things, if I can do it in such a way that offers somebody else hope, maybe healing, maybe even a resonance to say, I'm not alone. I feel seen and heard because you shared this experience in this story. We all need that. And it does no one any good to suffer in silence. Now back to Kintsugi. The process here was to take these pieces and try to reassemble this with this epoxy and this gold paint, and to mix these two parts of the epoxy together and then mix a little bit of the paint in it and then apply it in a timely manner, but not so quickly that it's too drippy, and not so long where it starts to actually cure and harden and you can't apply it. So there's a window of opportunity here to apply this to the edges and then kind of press the pieces together so that it kind of peeks out where the crack is. And so trying this, I thought, well, this doesn't seem like that complicated. Going in, looking at finished pieces, you think, okay, I can do this. When you're actually trying it, though, it's more complicated to try to learn something because all of a sudden you're back to being a beginner. You're back to trying something that does not come naturally, perhaps. And even if you've been skilled in other art forms or other areas, it does not guarantee that you will be an immediate success in something like this. And so that was my experience where, I'm trying to do this and all of a sudden it gets really stringy and there's parts of the mug that got covered that weren't supposed to get covered and things started drying before I got to apply something else. And I looked at the thing and I said, it doesn't look like gold. It looks like peanut butter. I mean, my vision of what I thought this was going to be as far as an experience, and I've kind of romanticized this idea of taking these broken things and introducing the gold and repairing something and redeeming it, and then being let down a little bit with my end result. Now, I was encouraged that, I did just fine. And that was my own sense of perfectionism creeping out because I had this idealized version of what the process would look like, of what the final outcome would look like. And it didn't necessarily measure up to that. And it was not lost on me, the irony that what I'm dealing with is something that is broken. And we're talking about this embracing imperfection. That's what it is, because there's cracks and there's gaps. And sometimes imperfection invites authenticity and connection. Because when you're willing to embrace it, people resonate with it because nobody's perfect. And just like I said, when I share stories about depression or about struggles, people resonate more with that than they would if I just simply shared all of the wins. Nobody likes to hear about win all the time because that's not their life. And then they start to feel this distance. They start to feel this disconnect and go, well, it's great for that person, but that's not my experience. So therefore, what this person has to say, maybe it's not as valuable to me. But if I'm talking with somebody who has been through it and they're willing to share those things and they're willing to share the lessons that they've learned and the redemption that has come out of some of those things, man, you better believe that I'm leaning in, that I'm mentally taking notes, that I'm connecting with that person on a deeper level, because to me, that's more valuable. That's the gold in the cracks. And embracing things when they don't go as planned. Things break, things change. We're in this evolution as a person, as well as our creative endeavors. we're having to adapt. We're having to embrace failure and feeling not enough, or maybe feeling too much. This frustration sometimes we experience in the creative process. All of these things lead to this sense of brokenness a lot of times. And yet the lessons from Kintsugi, they call us to accept the cracks because they tell a story. Oftentimes when this is done and it's with an item, an object that was broken, it was broken by accident. Perhaps there was a meaningful plate or cup or dish or something that fell, and there was meaning behind this thing. And it was, I need to somehow redeem this. I need to rescue this thing because I don't want to just toss it. I don't want this to be the final thing about the story of this object, because maybe it's connected to a person. Maybe there's a special experience. Maybe it was handed down from generations through your family. And there's meaning, significance, importance, memories tied to this object that hold significance. And so it was taking this thing and it tells a story. Even the breaking tells a story. For me, as I share about depression, as I share about burnout and things that have happened in my life, there are circumstances around that. It was me not operating out of who I truly am and how I'm wired. When I put my creativity on a shelf for 10 years, I was not showing up how I needed to show up, first and foremost for me, and then also for others. I wasn't using my giftings and my talents. I was not tapping into the things which brought me life and joy. And as a result, taking on a lot of other roles and responsibilities that were really not aligned. And almost like wearing a mask or showing up in somebody else's clothes, it just didn't work. And it finally got to the place where it didn't work so much that I started to suffer from depression. That's a story behind the cracks. Just like many times the story that's behind the cracks in whatever it is we're trying to repair in Kintsugi. Adding the gold, it is embracing repair with intention and grace. There is a way that you need to apply this when you're doing this process, that it enhances. You're not trying to apply this and hide the adhesive. You're applying it so that the gold becomes something part of the object. That's where the redemption is. It's adding the gold. It's embracing the repair. It's saying there's value in this process, no matter how long it may take, no matter how painful it may be. I'm going to engage. I'm going to show up. I'm going to participate and have agency in this process. And also know that these scars, these cracks will now be on display, but instead of them being something that I'm going to hide, they now become part of a larger story. And that's been my experience. Maybe it's been yours, or maybe you're learning to try to lean into that so that it can be your experience. It's also displaying beauty. We don't hide these parts, but we show them proudly and say, yeah, there were cracks. Yeah, there were breaks, but that's not the whole story. There is beauty in redemption. There's beauty in restoration. There is beauty in you keep going. You keep showing up. You endure. You persist. Be tenacious about that part of your life, no matter what it is. And if you're in a dark season right now, if you're in a dark place, and maybe this has nothing to do with your creativity, keep going. Don't give up. Your life matters, and your life is more than what you do, more than what you create. You as a person matter. I want you to hear that. Maybe it's been a long time since anyone has said, I believe in you and you matter. Well, maybe you can take that from me today. Maybe that's me giving you some gold to apply to your own cracks and saying, here, use this. Keep going. Believe in yourself. Dig down deeper. Keep showing up for yourself and then for the people around you. This mindset of repair, of restoration, it can lead to this sense of resilience and growth and ultimately even creative freedom. That's the whole daily creative habit story. It was me embracing my creativity, coming out of depression, going, I don't even know if I can do this anymore. And first and foremost, I want to do this because at one time it brought me joy. I'm not trying to make things to sell things. I'm not trying to make things so that it can be my livelihood anymore. I'm just trying to make things because I need to process. I need to have a place that's just mine, that maybe can bring me joy again, a place where I can play and break things and experiment, place for Kintsugi, repair, put the gold in. So whatever season that you may be in today, maybe it looks more like the broken pieces of the object. And it's time to try to reassemble, to put things back together again, but in a way that celebrates the cracks, lets the light shine through, and enhances and highlights with gold. Because that's more of the whole story. Your story's not over. It's not done. Look at your creative cracks with curiosity instead of shame. And can I tell you, every single one of us has moments of failure, moments where things went off the rails, things that we can be tempted to be ashamed of and feel shameful of. Most people don't talk about it, so you don't hear about it. That's why you feel like you're alone in it. But I'm here to tell you today, you're not alone. Keep going. Redeem even those places. Don't let shame keep you down. And it's a practice. It's something that takes intention and repetition, repair and reworking instead of discarding. This is part of the creation process beyond even ourselves. But even when you're making something where you're in that place where you're like, this is not turning out the way that I thought it would. This doesn't match the picture in my head. And we have that choice to either crumple something up, throw something away, or rework it. I want to challenge you. Try more reworking and less crumpling up and throwing away and discarding. I want to end with this thought. The most beautiful art often comes from what's been broken and made new again. That starts with us as a person first, and then finds its way out into our art and the things that we make. I hope that you found some encouragement in this today. I hope that the practice and art of Kintsugi maybe has enticed you. Perhaps if you haven't tried this yourself, you'll take this as an opportunity to, the next time you see that there's opportunity, to take a class, to take a workshop, to learn a little bit more. And you better believe that even though this piece that I created, it is way from perfect. I mean, there's a lot of drip marks. There's a lot of stringy pieces. There's a lot of, on the inside, it went places where it wasn't supposed to, where there weren't even cracks. I mean, there's a lot of imperfection when I look at this piece. But you know what? I'm going to proudly put it in a place where I can see it daily as a reminder for me to keep showing up, to keep showing the scars with the redemption, because things can be made beautiful again. I want to leave you with the charge that I always do on these solo episodes, and that is, today, go create or recreate something. Thanks for listening today. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe, leave a rating and a review. It really helps this podcast be seen and heard by others.